Hi, I'm Stefania.
And I'm Rosita, and this is our presentation on differentiating for an ELD learner.
Alexander is in Year 6 and has only been in Australia since the beginning of the year. He arrived to Australia from Taiwan, where he had some exposure to English in his primary school. Alexander was learning English as a foreign language. His first language is Mandarin Chinese.
Alexander is situated at level 4 on the writing ESL scales. He is able to communicate for a wide range of purposes, which has been successfully shown through his sequential explanation, The Life Cycle of a Butterfly. Alexander's text contains a phenomenon with a sequence of events to reveal how the process occurs. In terms of format and structure, Alexander has organised and sequenced the information within accurate stages and phases. However, he does need to elaborate his phenomenon, as it does not identify the fact that butterflies have a life cycle. On a more positive note, Alexander's sequential explanation does elaborate on each stage of the life cycle and effectively explains the relationships between these stages. He has included technical nouns such as exoskeleton, anchor, and transform, which highlight the specific components of the butterfly and its processes. Similarly, Alexander includes relating verbs in the present tense to show the relationship between the butterfly and its processes, as well as text connectives and action verbs. Finally, Alexander has used noun groups as the participant. In terms of text connectives and paragraph openers, Alexander has included several to add a cohesion and connect each paragraph. This is shown through the topic sentence stating the phenomenon and the consequential phases within the explanation. He uses simple time sequence markers as sentence openers. He links ideas using relative clauses with varying accuracy. For example, some other caterpillar are bright colour just to trick predators into thinking they are poisonous when they're not. From this sentence, we can identify that he needs further guidance to make his explanations more concise. Alexander needs to develop control of an expert scientific tenor. He has included several simple sentences with the occasional compound sentence. Alexander combines ideas by using the conjunction and. For example, the butterfly will take off and begin looking for a meal and a mate to start the whole process again. This places his writing more towards the spoken mode, as it is more speech-like and not formally constructed. In future, Alexander needs to incorporate more pronouns as referring words to track the phenomena instead of repeating the nouns. This would add further cohesion and sophistication to the explanation. To reinforce Alexander's placement on the ESL scales, he has shown several grammatical errors in his text, with the exclusion of ly at the end of some of the adverbs, as brightly and inversely. These ideas of extra support can be achieved through dialogic teaching and learning and joint construction. This will enable him to construct his sentences with more lexical density, use nominalisation, and achieve a more crafted and written text. In terms of vocabulary, Alexander has used some technical vocabulary such as predators and chrysalis, which demonstrates his understanding of modifying his writing to the requirements of the topic and shows evidence of moving into the science field. He has, however, used nominalisation, which he has not explained. The example is metamorphosis. This could indicate a lack of understanding. He has also misunderstood the meaning of mate in this specific context. Begin looking for a meal and a mate to start the process again. He has used the word mate as a noun rather than a verb. To support Alexander, explicit teaching of vocabulary and field-based knowledge must take place. A glossary and word wall, as well as the use of translanguaging, would be beneficial to assist this. Overall, Alexander has made a good attempt at writing a sequential explanation in the scientific field. It is evident that Alexander is confident in his basic interpersonal communication skills, his BICS, but requires more support with his cognitive academic language proficiency, CALP, particularly in science. Learning the literacies of science is significant in achieving a learner's scientific understanding, therefore making it crucial to provide EALD students with support in understanding these literacies. Learning science and learning the language of science are intertwined and both crucial.
Throughout this unit of work, students are exploring explanation texts, their purpose, their features, and how to successfully write one. By Lesson 10 of this unit, students are required to write their own factorial explanation, where they must explain the multiple causes of one outcome. Factorial explanations are typically divided into 3 stages: the phenomenon, the factors, and the general statement. The outcome requires the student to define the topic, this being cyclones. Students may also make brief connections to the factors that cause cyclones. Next, students create the phases, where they will identify and elaborate on each contributing factor to cyclones. Language features embedded within these phases include circumstance of reason, participants in the form of noun groups, processes in the form of verb groups, and causal conjunctions which link 2 clauses together. Additional language features include text and paragraph openers, nouns and pronouns used as general participants, sensing and action verbs, and sometimes modal verbs to express possible outcomes. The final stage of factorial explanations is a general statement about the phenomenon, which may be in the form of a prediction. Students are expected to plan, draft, and publish their factorial explanation. To achieve this, the teacher has utilised text-based teaching methods, whereby the teacher collaborates with their students and supports them to consistently gain more knowledge and better engage with texts. This unit plan begins with building the field and setting the overall context of the topic, whereby the teacher models text, encourages collaboration, predictions, brainstorms, class discussions, and participation. The teacher then provides some modelled writing where the students are asked to contribute their ideas and prior knowledge of natural disasters. By lesson 3 and 4, the teacher is exploring explanations as a familiar genre, creating class definitions, offering I wonder questions, and sharing different examples of this genre. By lesson 9, after several instances of modelled writing, the teacher encourages joint construction, where the teacher and students create two buddy paragraphs with guidance from a graphic organizer. By lesson 10, students are expected to write their own factorial explanation on their own. There are plenty of lessons dedicated to building the field, however, the remainder of the unit is unevenly segmented in terms of modelled writing, deconstruction, joint and independent construction. Furthermore, this unit plan displays strict allocation of time to group discussions, reflections, and brainstorming, with these times ranging from 2 to 3 minutes. Alexander will encounter immense difficulty with such short periods of time, consequently affecting the extent of his discussions and reflections. In summary, Alexander needs more time for discussions, reflections, as well as modelling, deconstruction, joint, and independent construction. To thoroughly help Alexander, the unit plan must include graphic organisers, translanguaging, visual aids, and support, as well as extended time allocated to learning experiences. To effectively cater to Alexander and his writing capabilities, the teacher must strategically scaffold and support Alexander in challenging yet clear activities.
To succeed in this unit, all learners must develop their scientific vocabulary and knowledge to thoroughly understand the topic of natural disasters. Support can be scaffolded differently to cater for all students. To achieve this, design-in scaffolding needs to be implemented on a macro scale. Thorough programming and planning needs to occur to support all EALD students as the lessons progress. Contingent scaffolding needs to be applied at the micro level where the needs arise. Translanguaging is a useful approach that will allow Alexander to draw on his existing linguistic repertoire and prior knowledge to therefore participate in the lessons. In the learning sequence, it is crucial that Alexander and other ELD learners understand Lesson 1, as this is the foundation for the rest of the unit. To do this, the teacher will provide this resource. A glossary should be compiled as a shared document or worksheet with scientific vocabulary relating to natural disasters, key learning vocabulary, and language features. This document can be added to as the lessons progress. The teacher needs to foreshadow ELD learners with new scientific language or key language so they can have an understanding of the concepts being taught, giving the learners the opportunity to activate their prior knowledge beforehand, thus enabling them to make a meaningful contribution to class discussions and learning. In Lesson 2, it would be useful to translate high pressure and low pressure into Mandarin, so this will ensure Alexander understands what they are learning and he can then participate in discussions. Similarly, the video explanations explored in Lesson 4 would be better understood if they were offered in Mandarin or with Mandarin subtitles. This way, Alexander is exposed to both his L1 and English, allowing him to make comparisons and expand his linguistic repertoire. Furthermore, displaying visuals in the classroom with English and Mandarin will help with the development of understanding of key vocabulary for both ELD learners and others. Applying dialogic teaching and learning within the classroom plays an important role in promoting active learning and developing student potential through fueling talking to learn. Talk is critical to language development, meaning that ELD learners need many opportunities to use their language within the classroom for a variety of purposes. Talking to learn requires a talkative classroom, where whole class discussions, small group discussions, partner and think pair share discussions are encouraged. Providing opportunities for learners to engage in different kinds of talk, such as reviewing and building on prior learning, explaining and revisiting concepts, and exploring and generalising, serves as a bridge between activity-related talk and more formal written registers of subject learning. Continuous talk in several contexts will develop an ELD learner's confidence, allowing engagement in conversations regarding curriculum concepts. The teaching and learning cycle has been designed to incorporate talking to learn at all stages, which in effect allows learners to develop deep content knowledge and the language and literacy skills necessary to develop knowledge. Additionally, it also involves interactive activities where learners use, hear, and see the language and key vocabulary related to a certain topic. Dialogic teaching with effective and collaborative talk does not occur simply because the teacher instructs the class to do so. There will be students, especially ELD learners, who are hesitant to speak in a communicative activity. In this learning sequence, there are designing opportunities to talk to learn, but if there are learners who are not confident to do this, they will not participate. The talk to learn needs to be designed so talk is necessary. A well-designed task should require talk, not simply invite it. In the first lessons of the sequence, a dialogic activity to support students' writing, such as dictogloss, would be an ideal activity to involve all students. This would encourage Alexander to communicate for a meaningful purpose in his writing.
Using multimodal support within the classroom allows teachers to make connections to ELD learners in their own cultural practices, which allows for inclusion and engagement. Alexander comes from Taiwan, where culture can be described as traditional and conservative, yet bright, fun, and festive. With consideration to certain aspects of Alexander's cultures, teachers can embed elements of music, storytelling, and drama, for example, to enhance Alexander's engagement and understanding of natural disasters, as per the syllabus outcome. Alexander will greatly benefit from access to several multimodal resources in Lesson 10. To make connections to Alexander and his birthplace, the teacher can provide resources and opportunities to explore earthquakes and natural disaster common to Taiwan.
The teacher will provide Alexander with the following resources: an application for Apple and Android devices called My Earthquake Alert, where students can view any location through a map with tracking abilities on previous and possible incoming earthquakes. The app displays statistics which can be universally understood and interpreted, as well as information regarding the severity of past and future earthquakes. The other resource is How Do Earthquakes Occur via the National Geographic Kids website, where students can explore a brief step-by-step explanation of how earthquakes can occur with supporting images and diagrams to foster their understanding. Lastly, students can view an article called Taiwanese Buildings Tremble and Tilt After the Largest Quake in 25 Years. It is a 3-minute read article about the latest earthquake in Taiwan. The article contains labeled maps and diagrams, as well as news videos to support the visual and written component of the article. These resources will be useful in selecting and expanding upon a natural disaster other than cyclones. Alexander will be able to relate and make connections to the content, consequently impacting his overall engagement with and success in the final lesson. It is important that the teacher provides Alexander with a sensitivity warning prior to engaging with these resources, as the information in these resources may be triggering.
Utilizing graphic organizers, among other things, can extend students' understandings into more abstract, subject-specific knowledge. Throughout this unit plan, several images and graphic organizers have been implemented. However, the suitability of these to an ELD learner are questionable. In Lesson 2, students are required to explore natural disasters using maps. Students are expected to work in randomized pairs to access the Bureau of Meteorology and add their findings into a template. Instead, students can be strategically partnered. For example, Alexander can be placed in a think pair share with another student from an Asian speaking background. Together, they can access the website with guidance from a list of carefully translated questions to guide their research. Both students must be allocated a generous amount of time to read their questions first, filter through the information, and then place their findings on a simple yet effective graphic organizer. Graphic organizers, when partnered with elements of a student's first language, can be helpful in reorganizing, bundling, and categorizing information, ultimately helping them build their field and knowledge of the topic. The graphic organizer created on the right is to be used in Lesson 2 to accurately cater to the needs of Alexander and his peers. It offers a main image of weather maps, prompting questions with supporting images which link to prior knowledge, as well as arrows, labels, and elements of translanguaging to expand upon both Alexander and his partner's linguistic repertoire.
Thank you for listening.